But what I also find interesting is we'll get people who absolutely have no connection to each other, who in the very same location will describe the same experience they're having.
Enchantment. You know, it's a unique place here. A lot of people say it's just the energy here. The energy here is fantastic. And maybe that's why there's so many haunts in different places, but I think the energy and the history both.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of think urban legend, you know, but it's based on the story of an actual murder, you know, that happened back there. And some of the ghost hunters picked up some very interesting EVP back in that area.
Morning, and he was sitting there and he was shaking his head. And I said, "What's wrong, Charlie?" He said, "Is there something wrong?" I was thinking maybe there was something wrong with the project, somebody had gotten hurt. You know, I just didn't. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And he goes, "Can't you just talk to her?" That's what he told me, and I said, "Talk to who, Charlie?" And he said, "Talk to your ghost." He said, "She followed you around the house." He said, "All she wants to know is that everything is, you're going to be all right, and that you're just here to help her restore the house." I remember one time I had to meet with an architect, and we walked into this big long room there, but it was a kitchen at the time, and there was a sink, and the house didn't have any water or electricity or anything like that. All of that had been turned off, and I was in there looking at the plans, and I could feel the water dripping on the sink. And you know, it's just a natural instinct just to come over, grab it, and just crank it down. And I reached over and grabbed it, and I was just about ready to crank it, and I stopped myself and I said, "There's no water." And it was just like I could feel somebody laughing, just like, "Oh, gotcha," you know.
Actually, the shop next door, they have a psychic who works there named Joe. And what's neat is, you know, Joe will give you a psychic reading, and the whole time she's talking with you, she's sketching or drawing. And what she's doing is she's drawing your guardian angel. And it's neat because after your reading, you get to take the sketch home with you. And when people see it, they recognize the person in the photo, in the sketch. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that's your great-grandma Betty," or "That's your Uncle Bob," but they'll recognize the person. When we first got our location here a few years ago, I'm doing the tour one night, and actually coming out of a little chapel, and Joe comes running up to me, and she's like, "Okay, I don't want to scare you." She's like, "But you have two guys following the tour around." And so I stop and I look, and she's like, "No, no, no, no." She goes, "I don't mean people." She goes, "I mean two spirits." She goes, "I'm picking up the name Amos James, Amos Jones, and his brother is nicknamed Boots." But she said, "Anyway, Boots and Amos follow the tour around. They like you guys." And I'm like, "Well, that's cool." And then a couple months later, I had a woman on the tour from Chicago who was a psychic. And the same thing, we walk out of the chapel, and she's like, "There are two spirits following us." And I'm like, "Okay." And she goes, "And I'm getting the name Amos." Now, Amos is not a pretty common name, right? Well, Joe actually made me a sketch of Amos, and I have it hanging up in our office there. About 17 years old, I'm coming home way too late. It's like 2 in the morning. And as I'm walking, this car pulls up alongside me, and a guy rolls down the window, starts saying something about the country and the mountains. And I just ignored him. You know, I keep walking. And so he drives off, but I can see his headlights. He comes around another road, then comes back up behind me, passes me, and pulls over in front of me and stops. But eventually, you know, I have to turn around and see what he's doing. Well, when I turn around, he is about 3 feet behind me, reaching out to grab me. So I scream, you know, this blood-curdling scream. You know, I started running and screaming, but rather than staying on the road, I start running through the woods next to me. So instantly, I trip. The guy has now grabbed me, and he's dragging me back to his car. And I'm kicking, and I'm crying, and I'm screaming. Well, then on the other side of the woods, there's these 3 little houses, and a light turns on one of them, and a guy comes out to the front porch, and he sees what's happening, and he runs across the woods, and he grabs me away from this guy. The bad guy, you know, gets in his car and drives away. The one who came out and saved me, he's like, you know, "Can I walk you home?" I'm like, "Please, you know, please walk me home." But when we get there, he wants to talk to my dad. So I actually wake up my dad, and my dad thanks him. But the next day, we want to go give the guy a proper thank you. So we go to the little house, you know, where the lighting come on, and there's just a little old lady there. And we're like, "Oh, was your son or your grandson here last night?" And she's like, "No, you know, it's just me." And we asked at the 2 other houses, no one had any idea who this guy was who ran out and saved me. And I had never seen that man before, and I never saw him again until Joe gave me my sketch of Amos. When she gave it to me, I'm like, I know him, I know that guy, he saved me. And she goes, I know you do. She goes, that's your guardian angel, and he's been with you your whole life.
So you're now a believer?
I wasn't a believer when I first bought the house, but I can say that I am a believer now. And she's very much here. Her spirit is roaming through here. And she has a great time with everybody. And just like people, there are good people and there are bad people. So I'm sure there's good spirits and bad spirits, and I'm sure that they carry the same thing. And Sarah, she's very much a part of this house, and I appreciate her being here because I think she looks out for all of us.
She said too, she's a believer, and she said last time, that ghost hunters were in there, that afterwards it left like bad juju.
Curandera is a healer. It's somebody that uses herbs and spiritual being to heal people. Mm-hmm. And curandero is it's the same thing. That's what he did. He just kind of used herbs and just talking to people, he would heal people.
In groups, psychics, in the buildings here, the stories have been verified by actual scientific evidence. And the ghost hunters believe that there are as many as 13 major ghosts down here. He figures something that is tangible, so a photograph or video or a sound clip or an energy reading or a temperature reading, something that you can actually document. Everyone's scared of the unknown, when we don't know what happens or what goes on. We're also in a very religious community. A lot of times people think that if you're talking about ghosts or ghost hunting, they think it might be satanic, in some way, which it's not, but a lot of people have that fear because they don't know what's going on. And most of the ghosts in Old Town, it's pretty much the same thing. They're reported being seen in the same place or doing the same thing. Even Sarah, the ghost at Church Street, when people see her, she's doing things like sweeping or dusting or cleaning. Mm-hmm. We have both on the tour. Normally before each tour, I'll ask everyone to raise their hand who believes in ghosts and total skeptics. And normally there'll be 1 or 2 in a group, but the majority of people don't know. They're just kind of somewhere in the middle, and that's fine. We do not attempt to tell anyone what they should think or believe. We just want to tell them a little bit of history, the ghost stories, and what has been found, during the paranormal investigations, and let everyone make up their own mind, as far as the possibility of the existence of ghosts.